And we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the dungeon. I'm your host, the Dungeon Master Vibe. So yeah, a bit of a. Hold on. Okay, that seems right. Anyways, hello again. So, a bit of an early morning stream here. To be told, you might be seeing me again later today, as I kind of want to do another stream this weekend on account of Saturday stream getting ruined by bad Wi-Fi outages due to winter storms in the area, one of which actually hit us again just last night, and I am now stuck inside by about 8-ish inches of snow. So that's interesting. Don't know if I've ever seen that much at one time, but yeah. So yeah, stuck inside today, so might be doing another stream later to kind of make up for Saturday's missed stream. For now, though, today we're doing our morning dungeon stories. I have a bit more organized one for you today. We're gonna be talking more about Out of the Abyss, but before that, you might have noticed the name of the channel actually changed. No, like there's no like big changes to the channel necessarily. Like I'm gonna keep doing my thing like I've been doing it for the most part, really. The main reason for that change is simply I decided I want to change the title of the channel to better represent what I'm actually calling the streams. I'm always referring to streams as Vibes Games, Vibes Dungeons. So I figured I should probably name the channel after after our character here, so that it's all easier to follow along. Not that it's really that difficult or anything, but yeah, I don't know. I felt like the change was a good idea, so I changed it. That is really the bottom line there. So yeah. In any case, so today we got another story for you. Let me just get a drink real quick. It's the last time I told you about my adventures with Out of the Abyss. I told you about my Paladin Hans and the Warlock Nazgul the time after that. Today, we'll be telling you about my third character in Out of the Abyss. This character was actually a lot of fun and played as one of my favorite races to play as in Dungeons and Dragons, a Tiefling. In general, I just find Tieflings very interesting. Some people I play with actually don't like using them because, I don't know, they're just a bit too far from the norm for your kind of general fantasy settings, I guess. But I mean, they fit very well within the established lore of Dungeons and Dragons, so they are a good fit, perfectly fine fit there. It's just not so much for other people who are kind of more in tune with more sort of Lord of the Rings, Tolkien type adventures, which I am actually playing one of those right now. Not Lord of the Rings, but like more heavily inspired by such stories. In any case, so I was playing a Tiefling. This was a Tiefling sorcerer, wild magic, by the name of Hollow. And of course, and if you're not familiar with the wild magic sorcerer, it is definitely one of the more interesting classes to play in the game. Not just for you as a player, but for the DM as well. So the rules as written pretty much state that whenever you are casting a spell of like first level or higher as the wild magic sorcerer, the DM can, so this class actually does involve quite a bit of DM participation, honestly. The DM can request for you to roll a d20. On a roll of 1, you then have to roll on what is called the wild magic table, which is a list of various magical effects with all sorts of just crazy things that happen. Some of them are beneficial, some of them aren't, and some of them are actually kind of bad. But most of them are pretty amusing. Plenty of them happen over the course of the adventure too. Not enough to get annoying, but enough to keep things interesting. So yeah, so my character here was Hollow. So Hollow was a Tiefling who was actually born in the Underdark of a hag who was dwelling down there. Now then, in our setting, there was sort of an established sort of organization of vampire hunters and otherwise monster slayers called the Helsing Organization. Yes, named after that Helsing. My brother was a big fan of that series, so he named the organization the same. In any case, this character, the hag that raised, quote unquote, raised Hollow, when she was born, she implanted within her a magical crystal. This magical crystal acts as her arcane focus and the cause of her wild magic sorcery, with the sorcery archetype for spellcasters being essentially someone who is pretty much directly attuned to the magic. Like, the magic isn't learned like it is with wizards. It's not gifted like it is with clerics and warlocks. It comes from within them, either through some strange event or particularly strong magic bloodline is the way that works. And in the particular case of my character Hollow, it was because of this crystal that was embedded within her at an early age. So the Hellsing organization comes along, slays the hag that raised her, and takes in Hollow and raises her as one of their own. So flash forward to the campaign in which she is introduced. Of the players have, well, I should say player at this point. The only one who escaped was Draven. This was directly after the Hans and the rest of the party was pretty much completely wiped out except for Draven by that particularly nasty demon with all the mutating effects. Once Draven finally escaped there and made it to the Dwarven City that sort of acts as the border between the Underdark and the surface world, he spoke with the leaders there, who then began to organize essentially all the major guilds and political powers within the game setting Avalon, who then rallied to the city to sort of bring forth representatives to join Draven's party and descend back into the Underdark to force the demons back from whence they came. So it was at that point that I decided to make Hollow from the Hellsing organization, as it seemed very fitting. In particular, when I was playing the character, I mostly focused on picking spells that were for good for monster slaying. So particularly fire damage, radiant damage, and a very liberal use of the banishment spell. Banishment, it became sort of like a joke, sort of a joke motto of mine in this game, and still is now, that banishment solves all problems. Sorry, thirsty. So Hollow joins the party within the city. It was at this point in the game that they were actually running around the city, meeting each of the guild representatives and routing them to the cause. The representative from Hellsing being my character Hollow. I'm sorry to say that there are going to be a lot of kind of hazy gaps in between the overall telling of the story of Hollow, as this was actually a point in the campaign in which my availability wasn't quite as open as it had been to this point. I started having to pick up a lot more shifts at my job, and I just wasn't able to make the sessions quite as much. So pretty much immediately after they met Hollow and she got introduced, they then had to was gone for about 2 weeks or so before popping back in. The DM actually found a very interesting reason for that to happen, though, which we'll get into later during this story. So some time passes, and the party is down in the Underdark exploring. They're on the search for this old library hidden within there that is supposedly the place in which the Drow found the means of summoning the demons. They traveled to this library, and upon entering it, discovered that the ritual was cast by a particular Drow mage, who was sort of put on the oust by the sort of the upper class of the Drow matriarchy. In order to find this individual, we decide that our best course of action is to actually travel to the Drow city itself. So we gather our things and we head there. Upon traveling there, we actually run into a number of issues. At this point, it was not only my character Hollow who disappeared for real-life reasons, but the DM made it for in-game reasons as well, as various NPCs would kind of tend to disappear out of nowhere, and we weren't sure why. And we would actually find that out soon. Before we reach there, though, we come upon this the smaller Duergar city, and within it, there's seems to be sort of a feud brewing between the locals, the Black Network, and sort of a splinter faction of the Black Network. Black Network being sort of a thieves guild organization within the setting, as well as sort of a spinoff of an actual official thieves guild from the Waterdeep setting and some other settings within in the established D&D that is sometimes referred to simply as the guild, I believe. But in ours, we refer to them as the Black Network. So we come to the city, and there's this feud brewing between them. All of it centered around this crystal. So we find this crystal and investigate. We find that anyone who touches it seems to get the distinct impression that it is theirs, and they would do just about anything to maintain possession of it, which seems to be what's brewing all this tension between these groups, as various people have laid their hands on it. Various people believe it's theirs, and that everyone else is trying to steal it from them. This effect briefly affecting Hollow, even, who, after she touches it in an attempt to examine it, claims that, oh, this is mine. And when the party tries to take it away from her, actually cast one of her various wall spells. I believe in this case I cast Wall Fire to block myself off from everyone and try to keep them away. Needless to say, between the Paladin and I believe we had a Krug at the time too, they were able to get rid of the charm effect, and things were a bit embarrassing for a moment though. As we're finding that there's a lot of issues with this crystal, I decided to give something a shot, which was, as I said, banish it. As banishment would prove to solve all of my problems. So I banished the crystal, and as we do, we see a face briefly appear, a demonic face. That it's simply calling out "no" as it disappears. As the DM explains to us that we just accidentally defeated one of the demon lords. In particular, this one was, I believe, Glaza Blue was his name. Let me double check. Fraser Blue, Fraser, blah 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 blue, dabba dee ba dabba da. Excuse me. One moment. Almost there. Just a moment. I'm getting there. The book is cold because it was sitting in front of the window. Yes, Fraser Blue. Yeah, he is the Demon Prince of Deception and Demon Lord of Illusions. So, it was his plot in the Underdark to use himself in this crystal form to sow distrust and greed amongst everyone, just kind of forcing everyone to destroy each other. Unfortunately, in this crystal form of his, he was much weaker and unable to really resist outside effects. So when we banished him, he was sent back to the Abyss, and that was one Demon Prince down by total accident, which really just kind of gave us all pause for a moment as we felt like, okay, so we just beat one of these guys on accident. Maybe we can actually do this thing. Only later will we realize just how much more difficult the other ones would prove to be. So, we make our way. So with that danger averted, we continue our journey towards the Drow city. Along the way, we come upon a location. This location is sort of this massive crater in the ground, with various kind of holes lining it and suspended rope bridges linking between them. It is in this location that we've heard the voices of some of our NPCs who have disappeared. And we discover that this place is in fact the cause for the disappearance of many characters. As it turns out, there is a beholder making home in this place and is stealing people to add to its collection. So we enter its lair, and boy, do we get into one heck of a fight. So this is one of many fights in which the actual arena in which the fight takes place really makes all the difference. So So the fight itself takes place over this massive pit. It's like 100 foot or maybe even bigger than that. Basically big enough to where if you were to fall all the way to the bottom, you would die instantly, like the amount of damage it would cause. As is rules as written, basically. You would die instantly from the fall. So the fight takes place over this pit on various sort of crisscrossing rope bridges. The Beholder, of course, doesn't have to worry about any of that as it's a Beholder and it just kind of levitates. So the Beholder would basically alternate between zapping us with its eye rays, with its favorite eye ray being whenever it's able to get the one that petrifies you, and then it would use this telekinesis one to lift you to the center of the pit and then drop you. Really, our only way to avoid this would be someone else casting similar spells such as levitate, or polymorphing people into birds, as well as spells such as Featherfall. Of course, Featherfall was kind of more of a temporary solution as you're just kind of stuck falling into this really deep pit for a very long time. So through a very intense use of ranged spells, some of which even would destroy some of our only platforms, these rope bridges. And by the end of the fight, I think about half the party was actually falling into the pit. But through a combined use of Featherfall, Levitate, Polymorph, we managed to all reach the bottom safely. Save for, I do want to say someone died during this fight. But I'll be honest, this kind of was at a part of the campaign where so many characters had died so quickly that I can't even remember who was in the party at this point, other than my character, Draven, and we had like a Kinku gunslinger, but I think they were dead at that point, which was very unfortunate because I feel like they would have been very useful for this fight. But yeah. So we slay the Beholder, and find within its caves various NPCs who had disappeared at this point. We rescue them, and they join our party. You don't have to bring all these NPCs with you, but if you haven't noticed by now, Out of the Abyss gives you a lot of NPCs, and a lot of them can accompany you pretty reasonably. So you can end up with a pretty big party, but as you've seen or heard, the encounters really do kind of counter it rather well. So we continue our adventures, killing and banishing demons along the way, before we finally reach the Drow's City. Shortly after arriving there and trying to speak with some of the matriarch houses, our party is actually captured and imprisoned. Not all of us, but the majority of us are captured and imprisoned. The warden of said prison is apparently a brother to the head matriarch of the city, and seems to have the intention of making some changes in management. The party is really not down for the power struggle, so we attempt to escape. This escape does not go so well, however, as Hollow is actually killed in the escape attempt. It was in this death, though, that we discovered something interesting. So as she dies, she actually sees that her soul is being ferried off to the river Styx and off to hell. Luckily, before that change is made final, the druid that is within the party, I do recall that was a druid. I actually like that character a lot. I believe their name was... Okay, I can't remember the name, but they were a good character. If I remember it, I will say it. I'm sorry. No, I'm stuck thinking about it. Okay, I'll come back to it. Anyhow, so they cast Reincarnate. So Reincarnate, unlike simply Revivify, Resurrect, or Resurrection, it brings the character back to life, but in a new body. So my character is brought back to life, now in the body of a half-orc, which, with the racial benefits of the half-orc, actually kind of makes the way I'd built the character up to that point a bit difficult. However, the party is a bit interested when Hollow tells them about what happened to her soul when she died, which everyone thought was rather odd, as all in all, Hollow was a pretty upstanding character, only ever really killing, things like the demons and such, and being all around a pretty good person. So they make a rather admittedly hasty decision, and seeing as though the half-orc party wasn't too beneficial towards the sorcerer, is like, hey, kill me again, I want to check something. And so after some slight hesitation from the party, only slight though, maybe a little less so than would have been like, to be frank, they go ahead and kill Hollow again. Once again, witnessing as her soul starts to get ferried off into hell. They're not really able to figure anything out at that moment, but it seems that she's discovered at this point that there is some sort of tie between Swords of Her magic and, well, getting drugged to hell upon death. So that is a new mystery that they hope to discover during their travels. As the druid cast Resurrect again, this time Hollow is transformed into a Fire Genasi. Which is definitely better, but still a little upset to not be a tiefling anymore, gotta admit. So, after that, the party flees the Drow city, doing so by making a favor with another one of the houses, who wish to gain the egg of a purple worm. So we travel into the tunnels that they've sent us, and upon reaching there, we find the nest of the worms. Unfortunately, we get there at the same time as a Drow hunting party looking for the same thing. One of said members is actually a young girl who's traveling with her mother. When we reach there, this Drow hunting party is actually in a bit of trouble. The purple worms becoming rather aggressive with them and actually really beating them back. The Drow have been separated and the child is alone. The party, being made up of the type of characters it is, immediately rushes in to help them, even though they're technically enemies. So we rush in to help save the child, and child who returns to the mother, and the Drow, wishing to protect their own, simply freeze in place, as that's basically how the worm's vision works, is it, senses the movement. So they freeze in place, and the party kills the worm in a rather epic fight. Purple worms, or like, something like I fought, like, anytime I come across them in a game, I'm always like, man, these things are a lot stronger than I thought they were. Yeah. In any case, so we killed the purple worm, and we negotiate with the Drow that we'll take some of the eggs, and they'll take the other half, and we call it squares. Rather easy negotiation on that part, and we return the eggs to our benefactor, who then happily escorts us out of the city into our new quarry. You see, while some of us were in prison, the rest of the party was scouting, and they discovered the man who summoned the demons, and that he had actually been cast out of the city. So this guy, if I recall correctly, his name was Vizirin, I want to say. If that's incorrect, I'm sorry, but I feel like Vizirin was his name, so go keep calling him that. So we discover where to find Vizirin, and we go to Vizirin's tower. Once there, we discovered that he did in fact summon the demons. It was his intention to summon them within the Drow city in the hopes of destroying it, as sort of a revenge and power shift in the Drow's matriarchy. He does, however, admit that things have suddenly gone awry with the demons running 40 amok, and that they were supposed to be under his control, but they clearly are not. So he gives us the solution to our problem and tells us how to actually reverse the summoning to bring all the Drow demon princes and princesses back to the Drow city, and from there, the demons, who all hate each other, will kill each other to the last, leaving the one victor being the sole demon prince to have to be fought by us ourselves. It's a hasty plan, and we are at first a bit hesitant to put the city in danger like that. It is, after all, his intention to destroy the whole city. Over time, though, during our travels at this point, we do begin to craft a new plan. This plan is to actually, instead, sort of ally ourselves with some of the houses and get them to evacuate the city, leaving only sort of the main ruler, who is, I forget her name, but she was just awful. We met her, and she was just awful, and one of our party members had an actual, I believe his name is Spider, actually, had a personal vendetta against her, as he himself was actually a Drow and was once an assassin under the employ of this household. But he was actually cast out and kind of put to blame for all the deaths that he was, sent out to deliver. And so despite this being his job, he was all the blame was placed on him and he was kicked out. And then he found out later on that the person he was working for went on and became the matriarch of the city. So of course he was quite angry with them and had a bit of a hit list going with the two sort of number one people on it being the matriarch and her brother, who, you guessed it, was the warden of that prison I was talking about earlier. So we make our way out of the city with our new information and begin to gather the items we need to reverse the spell. The things we need is the blood of a demon prince, the petrified feathers, which you might recognize from my story of Hans when we actually find that one, as well as it was a heart. The last one was like a heart of some sort, I want to say, but I can't quite recall what it was. Oh, I think we also need the Eye of the Beholder. I think I might have told that out of order. I think we need the Eye of the Beholder, and we fought that Beholder after we got this information and left the city. So actually, reverse that, because I think that was like the next thing we did that's when we went and fought the Beholder, I believe. So we go and do that, and then so it was at this point as I guess you can tell, as Hollow's story is now lining up with Hans's final stand, that we are starting to reach the end of Hollow's story. So, after more travel and more missed sessions, I'm sorry to say, we reach the labyrinth, in which we intend to find the petrified angel feathers, as well as, if able, the blood of one of the princes, as well as these mushrooms that I now recall we also needed that grow in the footsteps of greater demons. Up to this point, we're doing pretty good on all finding the items. We have the Eye of the Beholder. During our travels, we found the mushrooms needed that grow in the footsteps of these demons. In particular, by following the trail of one of the demon princes that leads us to the labyrinth. And then within the labyrinth itself, we do acquire the blood we need, as well as find the maze engine. But of course, just as it was with Hans's story, this is where Hollow's story would come to an end. Unfortunately, rather unsatisfying end, I have to admit, as none of the secrets of sort of her birth and the reason why her magic seems to cast off into hell is discovered. Though the DM did fill me in afterwards, so I'll tell you guys what story that is. As we're hoping that maybe it's a story that'll actually come up in possibly a future campaign, as all of his campaigns take place in his homebrewed setting, and a lot of characters sort of do become reoccurring. With our current campaign, actually, we are playing in Descent into Avernus, which is a campaign that takes place in the first level of D&D's version of Hell. So, who knows? Maybe we'll encounter some old foes and friends. In any case, so within the maze engine, we are chased. Just on the cusp of finding our next item, we are chased down by the ruler of the labyrinth himself, Baphomet. Hollow is knocked unconscious. Hans attempts to protect her and get her out, but in the battle, both she and Hans are slain by Baphomet. Hans, unable to break his curse, but able to save his family, and Hollow helping the party escape, but unable to save herself, which brings the death of my third character. So yet another character dies in Out of the Abyss. This one, kind of similar to Hans, actually technically was in fact revived multiple times, though. Two of them were in the same session and for scientific purposes. Yeah, so my next character was actually my final character for Out of the Abyss, and this next one would reach it to not only the end of the official Out of the Abyss adventure, but the end of the additional epilogues sort of epilogue section of it that the DM put together. Interesting about Out of the Abyss is after you beat the adventure in the back of the book, he did show us that it does actually give you sort of some campaign notes for sort of, hey, this could be something that happens out after this adventure. One of which being you could go into the abyss to sort of kill the demon lords for good, or in particular, the one that we did end up picking was that one of the demon princes, in particular, Grazit, actually escaped the summoning that we intend to do, and then travels to a city on the outside and begins to rule it. And that is something we'll be getting into the next time we do one of these stories, as I tell you the story of my fourth and final character for Out of the Abyss, Redeemus Skamos, which is another character in the sort of long-running line of the Skamos household within this campaign setting, which is very fun. Oh yeah, so one thing the DM did tell me about Hollow after the session was that sort of the reason for her death was she herself was actually essentially a sort of homunculus created by the hag, with the crystal that gave her both her magic and her life source, something that was traded to her from a devil. Devils, being the way they are, and made it so as should Hollow die, he now gets this free soul that was made artificially. So that's why Hollow was cast into hell upon death. Which is quite sad, seeing as though there wasn't really anything the party could do to stop it. So that brings Sad end to yet another character. But that's how the game goes, you know. It's very in particular settings like Out of the Abyss, very dark setting, but very fun. So yeah, so I hope you guys like that story. That's going to do it for this Dungeons and Dragons story time. The next one should be next Monday, unless something comes up. As well as you might actually see me again later today. I might do another stream of Little Nightmares to make up for missing the stream on Saturday. We'll just kind of have to see what time it allows. Though I have to admit, time is something as I have. As I stated, I am snowed in by about 8 inches of snow. So I've got nowhere to be. It's a Monday and I got nowhere to be. So yeah. As long as the power and my internet holds out, you might be seeing me again later today. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you all have a good day, and I wish you safe travels. Bye.